It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews.
There's going to be much higher expectations, sense of awareness of what we bring to the table.
Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, ends it. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker here on the Full Court Press. Thanks for tuning in, joining us on a Tuesday. A lot of different things on the docket today. We will take a closer look at Utah State and BYU. A matchup coming up on Thursday, 6 o'clock kickoff down in Provo. We'll be sharing a stat that blew our minds, a player of the week. We'll also talk a little bit about Utah State hockey. We've got some hockey players coming in and joining us next hour to talk about their season, which is getting underway. Got a home game this weekend, so we'll preview more of that. And we didn't get a chance to reveal our pick six to see how well we did in trying to predict what would happen over the weekend. So we'll get into that as well. But also just where Utah State and BYU are playing each other this week, and this will be... Well, this is the last game on the foreseeable future schedule for either team. It has us wondering about rivalries going away. And it's not just happening here. There's been news at various different places about traditional rivalries going away. And how do you feel about that? Red River rivalry is going to go away. This rivalry between Utah State and BYU is going to go away. Temporarily, who knows? It may be permanent. I don't know. But other rivalries in college sports have definitely been disrupted with realignment and everything moving around. So how do you feel about the death of rivalries? Does it matter as much anymore? Or are those traditional staples that we should still try to preserve? So if you want to chime in on any of those topics, the Full Court Press text line is open, 435-339-0321. If you want to chime in today. In fact, we got a text that came through just as we got off the air yesterday. So we'll lead off with this. This is 8968. It says, one of the last times the Aggies beat BYU in Provo, they also lost to Weber at home. That was 1978. Let's hope history repeats itself. Wouldn't that be interesting?
That is interesting. That's a stat that I had not noticed.
I'm pulling out the history book. I gotta verify.
He's trying to make sure. There's errors in those media guides, you should know. Although, in like the 70s, there's probably not errors. Most of the errors I've found are in like the early years.
Let's see, 1978.
Got to go way back.
All right, finding it. 1978, Utah State won in Provo. That was on October 7th. And then later in the year, on November 11th, the Aggies lost to Weber State, 44-25.
Yeah,
they finished 7-4 that year.
Yeah, it was a pretty good year. The thing is, when going into that game, Utah State had guaranteed a share of, I think it was the PCAA, I think. Whatever conference they were in that year, they were guaranteed a share of it because they'd gone just about undefeated in conference play. Obviously, they were 7-4 overall. And so I don't know, maybe they just didn't try in that game. Something. It was funny because I remember reading a newspaper article from 1978 where they commented that before the game, the officials went to Weber State and were like, if this game gets out of hand, you want to shorten the game maybe? They were actually considering shortening the game.
Really?
If it got out of hand. And It got out of hand the other way.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's a little embarrassing.
Only 6,000 people recorded to be in attendance that day.
At BYU?
At Weber State.
Oh, Weber State, okay. Yeah, not very many people attended games for a while.
Yeah. So, interesting side note. So maybe it's a positive forbearance of the next thing, what could happen this weekend.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a good omen. Maybe not. Who knows?
It's probably not. It's just we're all clinging to something.
Yeah, that's true.
Got to cling to something.
You know what? The Kalani Sitake earlier this week, the question was posed to him that whether or not Utah State should be considered as a dangerous team coming into this game because of the situation that they're in, not necessarily because of who they are, like who the coach is or who their players are, but because of the situation that they are in. Considering they're 1-3, frustrated after a team that won the Mountain West Conference a season ago, and kind of an interesting take from the BYU head coach about the state of Utah State coming into this one on Thursday.
But I have tons of respect for Utah State, their fans, and definitely for their football program, for their coaches and those players. Those guys work really hard. You can see well coached, and you can see the scheme works really well for them, and they're always dangerous. And so I played in these type of games before, so I know they're going to bring their best. I know they will. And so I've said this before to you guys over and over again. We need to make sure that our best shows up. And I honestly don't think it's shown up at all this season. That's my fault. So what better moment to do it than now, And so hopefully we can do that for a full 60 minutes. And I like our program if we can get that done.
And really that was kind of a sentiment that was echoed a lot through his presser, that he's focused more on getting his team right than on Utah State, which, kind of tells you that the disparity of the two programs where they are right now in their current trajectories, I think.
Yeah. Utah State's way down in the dumps. BYU's doing fine. They're ranked, I think, 19th on the latest AP poll. So, and Utah State's struggled a lot when BYU's been in the top 25. Some of the wins Utah State was getting against BYU in the last few years, when you're talking about Utah State, they've won like 2 out of the last 3 against BYU, I think. Or at least I was looking at the Utah State. I think they said that 2 out of the last 3. They're 2-2 in the last 4. Something to that effect. They've gotten a few more wins lately.
More parity in the last several years than there was for a long time.
Yeah. But several of those years, it was years where BYU was like 4-9, not so good. They did get a win over BYU in 2014 when BYU was ranked 18th in the AP poll at the time, which is actually the highest ranked team Utah State's ever beaten in a game. They've never beaten anybody ranked higher than 18th. So, I mean, obviously that was a good win. Of course, that was the year where Utah State went 10-4. One of the better years under Matt Wells, at least in terms of win total. So, I mean, maybe it'd take a heck of a game for Utah State to come away with this.
Yeah, since Matt Wells, there's been definitely more parity in this series. Though the Utah State has lost the last 2 that they've played, but this is a BYU team who lost some key players a year ago, notably the quarterback. But Jaron Hall is stepping in, and doesn't look like they've lost much of a step there at the quarterback position. He may not be as big of a thrower as Zach Wilson was, but he's mobile, and it looks like he's been improving a lot over these last couple of weeks coming into this one.
Yeah, he's doing really well, at least statistically. I was looking it up. He's one of like 3 quarterbacks in college who has like at least 1,000 yards, has completed 70% of his passes, and has like at least 9 touchdowns, but 1 or fewer interceptions. I know that's kind of a convoluted styling, but basically the long and short of it is he's doing well across the board statistically in terms of passing. Better than Bryce Young, who we faced earlier, who's supposed to be the best quarterback on our schedule. And Jaron Hall, again, statistically, is doing better. And he's played several top 25 teams already this year.
True.
So it's not like he's playing weak sauce competition like Zach Wilson was doing all the time. Jaren Hall is doing well, like 291 yards passing per game against good opponents on the road in tough situations. So he's gonna be a tough threat.
Yeah, Coach Blake Anderson calls him the total package when referring to the BYU quarterback.
What he's done in terms of accuracy, the ability to move the pocket and extend plays, and then really to reach the wide side of the field so effectively, that's not something everybody can do. They run the ball extremely well, and that takes a tremendous amount of pressure. I mean, it doesn't really matter what running back they put on the field. They're effective at running the ball. But he can reach every area of the field, and he can hurt you with his feet. He's a total package. We didn't see him a year ago. We're seeing him up close and personal this year, and he's playing at a very, very high level.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of emphasis on taking away passing opportunities. This BYU team has a lot of guys coming back who have been injured, and they have more weapons available to them. And those can be dangerous games because these players have been out for a while, and they want to remind everybody, including most of their teammates and their coaches, that they can still play and that they deserve time on the field. And those can be kind of dangerous games when you get those first games back for some of these guys.
I missed the first part of your comments. I was looking at the text.
Well,
this is about
just that BYU's getting some of their more weapons back available to throw to and utilizing their offense, and so that the Utah State secondary really has to be on point to take away those passing options.
Yeah. And statistically, Utah State's passing defense has not been bad. We were confident in this defense, like their defensive backs. We were confident in them earlier. And again, statistically, they're like 40-something, 48th in passing yards allowed. And again, they're still 10th in interceptions that they've gotten. So there have been some good things. I know in the last game there were a couple of bust plays where, Johnny Carter fell down on one play. It's kind of iffy because there's part of me that wants to think those numbers are deceptive, but again, it doesn't feel like Utah State's really been beaten in the past game that badly. The main frustrating thing against UNLV was they couldn't force an incompletion, but their quarterback, Brumfield, he's completed like 70% of his passes for the whole season. It's not like he suddenly came out of nowhere and completed all of his passes. So, I'm torn between wanting to say those numbers aren't real and Utah State's going to get ripped apart and saying, well, or, just saying the numbers are the numbers. There's a reality to those numbers. That's how it's
they
happening.
Stand for something.
Yeah. Utah State's not given up a ton of passing yards this season. So it'll be interesting. The main thing will be trying to keep Jaren Hall from running around too much. Because if he's able to run around and make plays with his legs, Utah State's not shown themselves to be able to stop that.
I agree, and I think that's the bigger weakness there, especially with some other concerns on that interior defensive front for Utah State. Being able to contain their run and contain a mobile quarterback who can evade and push the ball upfield and gain yards in other ways besides just his arm. And that's the run defense was still pretty strong, I want to say, for Utah State against UNLV. But I think this is a quarterback who's going to be more mobile and looking for opportunities to scramble for yards than what we saw out of Brumfield.
Yeah, no. Yes, it's just going to be tricky. I hope the Utah State can get a good pass rush because they can't just sit back and let Hall just pick them apart because they will, because they're going to have more dynamic athletes than UNLV. They're going to have better pass catchers. They're going to have a better offensive line and just a better quarterback overall. So you can't let him complete 70% of his passes again, because then it'll be even worse because you're facing a better quarterback. But then again, Hall's been completing 70% of his passes against Oregon and Baylor. So it's a hard stretch to say Utah State's going to be able to stop him. The key there will just be force turnovers and get him on his back. Because you're not going to be able to stand up to him with your secondary, most likely. So you got to disrupt him, and then when you finally disrupt him, don't let him get out of the pocket and make plays from there, because then you're going to be allowing huge plays. Because when you're getting out of the pocket, the things can really start to go bust. Because in the secondary, they're scrambling to figure out where the wide receivers are, and holes in the zone can open up because guys have committed to wide. There's just a whole bunch of mess that can happen. Then you end up giving up a 50-yard pass play. So it happens when you're facing good quarterbacks who can make plays out of the pocket.
Right. So this is, as we're focusing on the defense countering their offense, this is, maybe this is more of an overriding thing for Utah State in general, and we've been harping on this since Saturday night, is that you can't gift them opportunities. And the penalties on the defense last Saturday, not a ton of them. There were a few that got a little bit out of hand, but I think overall the defense kind of epitomizes that. Play with aggression, play to the line, but don't cross it. I think they understand that mentality better than some others on the team, but that they're going to have to be the ones to help set the tone to create opportunities, which they didn't last week against UNLV.
Yeah, and considering the way the offense plays, the defense could stand to give the offense a few good opportunities. We saw how it helped UNLV to get those interceptions, to have short fields, how much it helped their offense, which statistically didn't even do as well as Utah State's offense. They were outgained by 100 yards by the Aggies. But their defense put them in positions to score, and they did. You don't want to put more pressure on this defense and say you have to do this. You don't want to have to do that considering USC's defense is already overtaxed. But that might be what it takes to win this game, is to get some turnovers, maybe even score some defensive points. That kind of thing.
Right. It has to be a game where everybody's creating opportunities for the entire team. You can't hurt your team. And that was happening way too often on Saturday. Can that be drastically improved and suddenly flipped the other way around? I mean, we've seen that this team has that potential. They've had quite a few takeaways already in this season. They didn't have any on Saturday, but they've had a number of takeaways already this year. They've shown that they can play disciplined football. They've gotten out of hand and let that get away from them. So if they can get that dialed back in, then they're going to give themselves a fighter's chance on Thursday, because they just gave away way too much on Saturday. And you rein that in. They're showing signs of improvement in a lot of areas. I don't know that it necessarily yields a victory just yet, just looking at the matchups. But if Utah State plays a clean game and plays their style, which we know they can play,
well, I don't know about that.
Then I think it'll be a fun, competitive game.
Yeah, that's really all I'm asking at this point. And unfortunately, we have to play the moral victories game again. Had to play that against Alabama. Almost had to do it against UNLV, where we were talking about we'd be okay in a sense if Utah State lost, 35-30. We would have been okay with that, and we were kind of okay with only losing 34-24. Obviously, there were some problems, but, showed improvement. And again, we have to say, all right, just don't get murdered by BYU, and we'll be okay with it. It really sucks that we have to do that, but you are right in that sense. You are right in what you said.
It's got to show signs of improvement.
Yeah. This week, just don't turn the ball over. Once or twice, maybe if you just get straight up unlucky, that happens. Maybe a bad tip, whatever. Maybe if there's one you can live with. But don't do it 5-6 times. Don't force a ball there. Don't force a ball there. It's just, you can't be doing that.
Yeah, and that will be interesting to see what kind of adjustments, if any, are made to the offense for Utah State to have more competitive throws, wide receivers creating more space. That was definitely harped on time and time again in the post-game press conference. And in a short week to try to figure it out, too, for Utah State. Got to take another time out here in the Full Court Press. Love to hear from you on our Full Court Press text line, 435-339-0321. We'll hear more from the coaches and players about this matchup on Thursday night and look at some of the interesting storylines heading into it. 6 o'clock kickoff, which means our game day coverage will begin at 4:30 on Thursday. So that'll cut into our program a bit on Thursday. But it's okay. It'll be better than what we could put together for you. Trust Al Lewis and Craig Hislop. They always do a great job. So anyway, that's coming up on Thursday. But more from the coaches and players, and also about this rivalry going away. And not just this rivalry, but there's a lot of rivalries going away. So how do you feel about the death of rivalries? Are we to the point where it doesn't really matter as much anymore, and we're just chasing the almighty dollar over rivalries? Or are there other ways to preserve it or to create new ones? 435-339-0321.
What's more important than sleep? Granted, some things are, but not many. This is Ryan at My Mattress, and here we offer the best solution to better sleep, a better mattress. IntelliBed, the gel mattress, cradles your hips and shoulders while providing the best back support possible. Or come in and choose a Tempur-Pedic that boasts 93% of their owners love their bed. My Mattress, offering the best sleep possible by the South Walmart.
It's game time, and you're in the locker room ready to take the field. But suddenly, you notice a player you don't recognize. He's wearing your team's jersey, and he even knows your name. But you've never seen him before now. Would you trust this stranger with your team's playbook? That's exactly how phishing scams work. And the first quarter of 2022 saw the highest volume of phishing attacks ever recorded. Protect your business with the Les Olson Security Suite from Les Olson IT. Learn more at lesolson.com.
Thermo Fisher Scientific is hiring for their manufacturing, distribution, and warehouse team. And that's great news for anyone seeking a rewarding career. Thermo Fisher offers positions across multiple shifts, competitive compensation, health benefits, paid time off, bonuses, and an excellent work environment. Help Thermo Fisher make the world healthier, cleaner, and safer. Visit job.thermofisher.com and search Logan. Thermo Fisher Scientific is an equal opportunity employer.
DD Auto and Salvage is going to pay you the most for junk vehicles. You can get rid of your junk vehicles today. DD Auto and Salvage makes it so easy and fast to get rid of your junk or vehicles by paying you the most money possible. Pickup is available. If you have metal, DD Auto and Salvage in Logan wants to pay you today. Call 787-1204.
That's 787-1204.
Today. See store for details.
This is The Herd.
Attention listeners.
With Colin Cowherd.
Dak Prescott makes $40 million a year, and it cannot beat good teams since his rookie year. Here is Dak Prescott versus playoff teams in his career. 12-21. What is he, Kirk Cousins on Monday Night Football? Oh, wait. That's actually what I've compared him to the last 2 years.
This is The Herd.
Weekdays from 10 to 1 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Valvoline Instant Oil Change, open every day of the week, even on Sundays at 695 North Main in Logan. They're quick, clean, and easy, just how it should be when it comes to an oil change, so stop in today. Friend of the program, Al Lewis, listening in, texting us with some additional clarification on that 1978 season. Utah State started 5-0 that year, nationally ranked, then lost to Long Beach State. It says couldn't finish very strong. It says the day of the Weber State game was horrible weather, really cold and snowy. It may have something to do with their lack of attendance and this struggling to move the team very well. So maybe it's an omen. In the season where they lose to Weber State, they can turn around and beat BYU. Utah State is, 25-point underdogs in this one?
Yeah, I saw one line that said 24. It very likely moved since then because I was like Monday, but I don't know where the line is now.
That's 24.
24, still 24?
Yeah.
Yeah, it might move up, to be honest. Well, if it hasn't moved up by now, or is it only Tuesday?
It's only Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Getting lost.
There's time.
It might very well move up.
There's time.
Just with lack of confidence in Utah State.
Well, and with BYU getting key guys back as well.
Yeah.
Which they've been really looking for. But one of the things that to consider with this series is that it's been a long series. Right? These two teams have played each other a lot over the years. Sure, there was a stretch where it was one-sided, where Utah State was dominating this series, and then it started to flip, and then BYU dominated the series. And in the last 5 to 10 years, we'll say, it's been more competitive. It's been more balanced. BYU has won the last two, but before that, Utah State won the previous two. So it's been back and forth a little bit more. But it's going away. And there's a couple of the coaches and players kind of addressed that in their press availability this week, and want to get your thoughts on it as well. Like the death of rivalry in college sports, and this is Coach Anderson reflecting on how this could be the last game in this rivalry.
It's a great rivalry. I understand what's going on. I mean, I think we all saw this potentially coming with their move to the Big 12. But rivalry football is what college football is all about, in my opinion. I absolutely love it. Have not always been able to be a part of that, but some of my most enjoyable experiences are these types of games. So I hate to see it go. I understand why it is. You'd like to think it'll come back around at some point, that we'll be able to get it sorted out where this game comes back in the future. But for a while, this is going to be the last one. He likes coaching in rivalry situations. He likes having played in rivalry situations. And for Kalani Sitake, really, it's kind of a similar sentiment for him as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I love the in-state games, and I mean, we went up there to Logan last year, and that was a cool environment, man. It just you could see how much the fans love it and love this game. So, I'm not the guy that does the scheduling. That's on our administration. But personally, yeah, I played in this. I remember being a fan cheering for BYU in these rival games, and especially the games against Utah State. So I played in it, and now I get to coach in it. So it's been a lot of fun. That's just, I don't have the control of that.
Yeah, that's the issue, is that the players and even the coaches, sometimes coaches who aren't even like really tied to the rivalry, like Coach Anderson's not really as tied to this rivalry. Sitake obviously is, so he's a lot closer to Utah in terms of his playing and coaching days.
Right.
So obviously he likes it, and Coach Anderson, they like these rivalry games, and the players love it too. But the administration, their pride and the dollar signs they're seeing doesn't match up with playing these games anymore. And it's not just a Utah State BYU thing or a BYU Utah thing. As you've mentioned, it's all over the country. Dollars and cents and pride are coming before rivalry games and tradition.
Yeah, I may have said Red River Rivalry, and I should have clarified, because that will continue in conference, because both Oklahoma and Texas will be in the same conference. It's the Bedlam game. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State will discontinue, and that will not happen anymore because they'll no longer be part of the same conference, and they don't seem interested in keeping it going.
Yeah, the thing is, a lot of these like cross-state rivalries seem to be the ones going away, because you have ones like Michigan and Ohio State kind of sticking around, Oklahoma, Texas, and largely because, just going off the top of my head, it feels like when teams are like teams are leaving conferences, they're not going in pairs like in the state. Like Utah and BYU didn't go to the Pac-12. Oklahoma State didn't go to the SEC. It's just one, then another, And they're picking and choosing which team out of this media market they want. They're not pulling them in pairs. The USC UCLA thing seems to be kind of the exception to that, where they're pulling both of them, but they're just both in LA. So they was like, okay, we'll take you both.
Right, but historically that was the move where Arizona and Arizona State were a package deal. Washington State were a package deal. Oregon State. So those will, and there were legislatures that got involved with some of those things too, to say, if one's going, the other one has to go with it. You can't separate these two. But it hasn't always been the case. And we're seeing that some traditional rivalries disrupted with realignment. We had a game earlier this year. Was it Pitt and West Virginia, which was an old rivalry that used to always take place. And that game got played. And it was a fun game. But are these rivalries holding us back? Should we be considering, look, there's an opportunity for conference expansion or being in a better media deal and positioning a team to be in the hunt for the college football playoff or a bigger bowl game. We can't afford to play some of these games. We have to be more considerate of who's on our schedule. We may not be able to afford to play a team like a Utah State anymore because, we have Big 12 aspirations, we have college football playoff aspirations, or New Year's Six or whatever. And the pressure is now to play other power conference teams, and there's just not room.
I think it just comes down to the fact that we look at college football much more nationally and view it as much more of an end goal, get to the playoff, get to the championship type thing. Because for the longest time, what was college football besides regional rivalries, pride in your team, showing up and just watching football? Because I'll tell you what college football was never and has never been and never will be. It's never been about watching the best football on the planet. No, college football is bad compared to the NFL. Just as a, X's and O's, player skill level.
Right.
It is in every way inferior to the NFL. But people love it. Why? Passion for the team in a way the NFL will never have. The NFL has never compared to college football in terms of passion for the team. And you look at it there are bigger stadiums in college football than there are in the NFL in a lot of big cases. NFL stadiums tend to max out at 60,000, 70,000. BYU has a 68,000 person stadium. BYU in little small town Provo has a bigger stadium, I'm pretty sure, than the New England Patriots.
Than a lot of NFL stadiums.
It may not be, the Patriots might have 70,000. But seriously, college football has a passion the NFL doesn't have. And a lot of that is built on the tradition and, just going back and having all these rivalries and all this stuff. And it's just, that's going away and it's getting replaced by something. It's getting replaced by, we have to make a chase for the playoff. We have to chase these dollars. It's becoming so much more about the money. And in a way, it's always been about the money. But it's about chasing the giant TV deal, chasing the, $100 million facilities, having basically a luxury hotel for a locker room, and just making the most amount of money and getting a chance to get in the playoff. That's what it's mostly about.
Getting through your texts, I apologize, I didn't get through them earlier. My screen was frozen, so I got a bunch of texts coming through. We'll get to some of these. 4086. I apologize for the comments I made on Aggie Call on Saturday night. I take total responsibility for the comments I made.
What did you do?
I don't know I don't remember what you said, 4086.
The text?
Maybe Ryan should be the OC. Yeah, he didn't take any offense at that, I know. 2417, text again. If it was a rivalry like Michigan versus Ohio State, then it would matter a lot. But because it's BYU versus Utah State, the rest of the country could care less.
And this really is a smaller rivalry than really anything else.
Sure, the Utah-BYU rivalry stands above the BYU-Utah State. Sure. You're silly if anybody tries to tell you otherwise.
Yeah, it definitely means more on the Utah State side than it does the BYU side. That's just a reality that's always going to be there. But it is part of it is a smaller part in the larger trend of the death of rivalries in college football, which is a shame because that's another thing the NFL's not really had. There's not really been real rivalries in the NFL. The closest they've come was, for the longest time, we've had Pittsburgh and Baltimore. And then 49ers Cowboys in the 90s. Yeah. But like those tend to just be brief flashes in the pan. They hate each other when like both teams are good for like 10 years. And then they fizzle. You know, when in like the 100 years we've been playing BYU Utah, has that rivalry fizzled? No, they still hate each other.
Yeah.
They still go after each other, and they're not even playing. They don't play this year, do they?
That's a good question. I don't know. I haven't looked at
whether or
their
not they're playing
schedule.
this year, they're still taking pot shots at each other because it's a rivalry, and it's a beautiful and horrible thing about college football.
Well, when it transcends the game itself, right? When it goes beyond just what happens in those 3.5 hours on the field, in the lead up, the smack talk, waving your banner, painting your window. And then after the results, rubbing it in the other one's face for a while.
Yes, especially here in Utah, where a lot of times both fan bases watch the games, they'll come back and come to the same church building and rub elbows.
That's true. 8968, talking about that Weber State game. 1978 Weber game, the weather was very, very cold, and it was snowing. They'd evolved fumbleitis, I think.
Fumbleitis.
I don't know how many in a row the Aggies lost, but it was a bunch. By the way, I think the Aggies were 5-0 after beating BYU and then lost Long Beach State and the next game.
Yeah, so just the season summary is they did start 5-0, as Al Lewis mentioned earlier. And the 8968 is pretty much had a lot of the same information, obviously. So after beating BYU, they lost 2 in a row. They lost to Long Beach State and then Miami.
It was a close game, Miami and Florida.
Yeah, lost 16-17. Then they beat San Jose State. They were actually co-champions with San Jose State for the conference title that year, the PCA. It was the first year Utah State was in that conference. Then they beat Pacific, lost to Weber State, lost to Utah to cap off the year. They go 7-4. So they lost 4 of their last 6 games.
It's a rough way to finish after such a good start.
It is.
9952, if the Aggie offense can't stay on the field, the defense will be torn apart by Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, the offense has to do the defense favors by sustaining drives. Give that defense a chance, and they'll give the offense a chance by getting BYU off the field. They have guys who can do it, but the offense has to do their part to give them a breather.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't want to ask more of the defense, but unless the offense does step up, the defense will have to overperform, which they haven't done that this year, so it feels like we're having to expect things. Well, for Utah State to win this game, we have to expect things that they haven't done before. That's kind of long and short of it. Things they haven't done before, mostly on offense, maybe some on defense. We've seen a lot more flashes of greatness out of the defense than we have the offense.
Yeah, true. 2947. We're going to get ripped apart by BYU, especially since it's at BYU. I hate to sound negative, but our offense scored 0 points against Weber at home, and coaching was purposely not changed or has purposely not changed anything. Our only hope is trying something different and working really well. Different play calling, players, quarterback, etc., and a lot of turnovers by BYU.
And I'll tell you one thing I am incredibly worried about is Utah State just being one-dimensional and throwing a lot of picks again, because BYU is going to be able to sit back and just play the pass the entire game. And I don't know how much better they are than UNLV on defense. I would assume they're much better, some better athletes, and just better overall, better coached, and have much better tradition of being a good defense than UNLV does. And so Utah State's probably not going to be able to run against BYU. And UNLV kind of recognized that, where UNLV didn't play super aggressive against the run. They played against the pass, and they got 5 picks out of it. BYU could very well do the same. because Utah State's not running the ball. Last year, Utah State ran for 22 yards the whole game against BYU.
Yeah, it was rough.
Half a yard per rush. So that they didn't do very well. And if you can play like 5-man box, drop 8, like, how are you supposed to move the ball against that? You don't.
4781. Aggies will beat BYU. Mark my words. Mainly because USU will break Jaron Hall's leg on the first drive. We like to mess up their quarterbacks.
That's the thing BYU says. We don't want to play Utah State anymore because they keep injuring our quarterbacks.
Well, what they conveniently forget is that they messed up Chucky Keaton as well. So
yeah,
it was a back and forth thing.
It was. It's really unfortunate.
Yeah, and unintentional on all around. And then finally, how are jersey sales for college football? Passion entails a lot of different things.
Well, 100,000 people show up at the big house on a weekly basis. I'd say that's a pretty good passion.
Yeah.
Student sections. You know, I'm not saying the NFL doesn't have passion, but it just cannot rival the passion for college football.
Right. There are definitely traditions around college football that don't really exist in the NFL.
Yeah.
There are rivalries that exist in college football that do not exist in the NFL. I get it. You can get behind specific players in the NFL a lot more because they're around for longer. But to see rivalries going away in college football and college sports in general is sad. It's frustrating to me, to be honest. That's one of the byproducts of this greed in college athletics that's just really depressing to me.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the thing about jersey sales, that's complicated because there's been this whole thing about name, image, and likeness throughout all of history. Like, it's been iffy about selling jerseys because, putting the guy's name on the back of the jersey. There's been, you couldn't really do that.
True. It's a very fair point. Go to, in 4781 for the follow-up, but are they wearing jerseys? Have you seen a Buffalo Bills parking lot before their games? That's passion, unfortunately, for lifetime tables. Yes, that's true. But you're right. Can you go to a store right now and buy a jersey of an NFL, or excuse me, of an Aggie player that you'd want to wear and go to the game? You might be able to find a replica jersey, but I don't know, would it have a player's name on it?
That's the thing is the official ability to sell jerseys has not been something college football has really been able to do.
It's been really hindered.
I'm pretty sure for legal reasons.
Yes.
So that's where jersey sales aren't really a thing.
So I don't think it's a really fair apples and oranges argument.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand the point trying to be made, but it really isn't fair. It's not exactly the same through line.
Yeah. So, and again, I'm not saying the NFL doesn't have passion, 'cause there are plenty of fans in the NFL, and there's traditions there and there's different things, but again, compare that to 100,000 people showing up at college stadiums all over the country. It's several different places. The rivalries, the tailgating and everything. It just doesn't compare, especially when you consider how much better NFL teams are than college football. You'd think more people would want to follow the really good team who has the recognizable superstar quarterbacks. Like, why couldn't the Jets pull off more fans when they have, Joe Namath than maybe some of the high schools, like in the SEC, or not the high schools, the colleges. So it's like colleges have been able to get a lot of fans despite having some real disadvantages in marketability of stars and different things like that.
Right, and that will be interesting to see how that changes. I mean, we see Bryce Young on national television spots for Nissan, and so that's just the beginning of how these players will be marketed, and he can wear his jersey because they've paid him, they've paid the university, they've gotten the rights to be able to do that, where you'd never be able to see that before.
Yeah, and it's already rubbing people the wrong way, to be honest. I'm not liking it.
All right, more on this, the death of rivalries, and are you okay with it? Or should we do whatever we can to preserve rivalries that exist? Now, divisions are going away in the Mountain West. Is that going to affect rivalries in the Mountain West? And I think they've tried to figure a way to maintain that to some degree, but it's affecting us even closer to home within the same conference. So we'll discuss that more coming up on the Full Court Press.
This is James Stevens with White Pine Funeral Services. We are humbled by and grateful for the tremendous support we have been shown since opening our doors nearly 2 years ago. So we just want to say thank you. On behalf of everyone at White Pine, first and foremost, thank you for allowing us the honor and privilege of serving you and caring for your loved ones. Additionally, thank you for voting White Pine the best mortuary in Cache Valley in both 2021 and 2022.
White Pine Funeral Services, here when you need us most.
Don't get caught without power after a windstorm or a major winter freeze. Golden Spike Electric offers Generac backup generators so you can be prepared and keep your home warm while avoiding frozen pipes. Golden Spike Electric is one of the largest Generac dealers around, so you know it'll be installed right. Whether you're a homeowner or an electrician, contact Golden Spike Electric to rest easy the next time the power goes out. Online at gsegenerators.com or call 435-257-3016. They also service other models.
We are Aegis Home Health and Hospice. Aegis, A-E-G-I-S. Our home is your home. We are more than an organization of healthcare professionals. We are proud members of our community. Compassionate, quality patient care is our mission. I am Jason Jones. I'm a proud member of the Aegis team. At Aegis, we're dedicated to character, experience, and trust. Aegis Home Care and Hospice. We will ensure you experience the difference. 435-723-9000 or find us at myaegis.com.
It's time for the big hunt. But what do you do after you bag your trophy game? This is Jay from Daryl's Appliance. We have several freezers in stock for you to store your big game harvest, including a Frigidaire 20 cubic foot upright freezer in white for only $9.89. Hurry, stock is limited. See store for details. Daryl's Appliance Service and Sales west on Airport Road, open until 6 p.m. on weekdays, 5 on Saturday.
See Daryl's Appliance in beautiful downtown Benson.
This is Nate Lamson with Valley Office Systems, your home team when local matters. Valley Office Systems is your local provider for all things office, copiers, printers, furniture, and document management. Proudly serving Cache Valley since 2007. Visit valleyofficesystems.com.
The Aggies, Jazz, high schools, even the Pee Wee's T-ball team. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, The Fan.
Just continue to work on our techniques, work on our fundamentals, understand their scheme, understand how it relates to our scheme, and just playing extremely hard when the ball's up in the air, being combative, as Coach Bond always says, fighting for it, not giving up easy completions to them and making them earn everything that they try to do.
That's Utah State safety Hunter Reynolds talking about trying to get prepared for a diverse passing attack from BYU. A lot of different weapons at their disposal with more guys coming back from injury. So that Utah State secondary could really have its hands full. So, again, they will play at 6 o'clock, kickoff at 6. Pre-game coverage for us will begin at 4:30 here on The Fan, simulcasting KVNU Game Day. Al Lewis and Craig Hislop breaking it down. Always great insight from them and unique interviews and unique audio to get you ready for the matchup. And then as soon as the game is over, we'll be back on the air with KVNU Aggie Call on both KVNU and here on The Fan, taking your calls and your reactions to what happened in Provo on Thursday night. But it's a rivalry that's going away. And I want to get this comment from Chandler Dolphin. He grew up in Utah. He went to high school in Utah. He's been at Utah State for a little while. So certainly he knows a lot about this rivalry. And besides that, he knows some of the guys on the other side of the field, which is one of the other fun things about these in-state games.
Growing up here in Utah, been surrounded by a lot of BYU fans. A lot of people in my neighborhood were BYU fans. I was always surrounded by BYU stuff growing up. I have a lot of good friends that play for BYU right now. And then obviously when you get here to Utah State and play ball, it turns into, It's a full-blown rivalry here. So it's an exciting game. It's a fun game to be able to play against some of the guys that you've competed against your entire life or trained with. My buddy Braden Kime plays O-line there. I went to high school with him. Ben Bywater, phenomenal linebacker for them. Trained with him in high school. So there's a lot of guys I know on that team that I've competed against in football and basketball growing up. So it's a fun game, It's a game you definitely try to take some pride in it for sure.
And it's going away. So how well do you perform in this last one? That matters. And that was something that Coach Anderson kept trying to stress as well. Like, this is going to be the last game. Who knows if it'll be the last one ever, but it could be the last one in a long time. So we want to make sure we do it right.
Yeah, it'll happen again. But yeah, we don't know when. That's the problem. And it could be a long time.
Or with how much regularity.
Yeah. Yeah, it won't happen regularly. It'll probably happen about as often as Utah State, Weber State, which has only happened which it might happen less often than USU, Weber State, which has happened every 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. So interesting state of the rivalry and how others are weighing in on it. Love to continue to get your thoughts as well. 435-339-0321.
S.C. Needham Jewelers is where Utah gets engaged. Couples throughout the state buy their rings from S.C. Needham Jewelers because of our low prices, extensive ring selection, and extraordinary benefits and services with financing available. Go to scneedham.com to learn more. We have many unique and beautiful engagement rings starting at $500. You'll find affordable engagement rings with our integrity price guarantee. This is why we are where Utah gets engaged. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7. S.C. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
We would like to welcome Prodigy Brewing to the heart of Logan, Cache Valley's first and only brew pub with family-friendly dining. With an upscale twist on classic brew pub fare and ingredients sourced as local as possible, they are thrilled to be part of the heart of Cache Valley. Bring the family and try their wood-fired pizza or their mouth-watering signature burger. Located on beautiful Center Street, open Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Pizza, burgers, and brews. Tasty.
Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical. I'd like to invite you to learn more about us. Since 1997, we've been Utah's premier one-stop shop for home medical equipment. What sets us apart at Alpine Home Medical is the superior level of customer service. We provide home oxygen, CPAPs, wheelchairs, scooters, breast pumps, and so much more. Come on down and get to know us.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Visit alpinehomemedical.com.
They never could play it, but they sure can talk about it. Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker on the Full Court Press.
When you buy Napa Auto Parts, you know you're getting the best. When you pull into one of their 5 locally owned Preston and Providence Napa stores, they have the know-how to make sure you're getting the right stuff and can even help you install it if necessary. Or if it requires even more work, they recommend over a dozen Napa Auto Care Centers with ASE certified technicians. Wrapping up this hour, we have USU hockey coming up shortly, next hour, so stay tuned for that. That's fun. Their season closely underway. One of the most highly attended sporting events or teams on campus. You have football number 1, men's basketball number 2, probably hockey's number 3. Volleyball might be close behind, but I put that club hockey team probably the 3rd most attended sport at Utah State.
Yeah, I've been to quite a few of their games, and it's a heck of a time.
It's fun. Just a little bit of time here left, 2 minutes left of the show before we send it up to Dan Patrick above the noise. Let's go with the stat that blew your mind, Jason, for this last week.
So this is one I kind of stumbled on. I guess it's not last week, but it's like the last year and a half, this stat as far as a trend. I found it today during show prep. And that is this. So you look at the first 4 games under Blake Anderson. Utah State averaged about 213 rushing yards a game, a little over 5 rushing yards per attempt. And the 12 games after those first 4 games, so last 8 games of last season and all of this season, that averages 147, almost 148 yards per game, 3.1 yards per attempt.
Oh.
So they lost the magic. And actually it was the BYU game that's kind of splitting the difference there because they had all that and they faced BYU, ran for 22 yards the entire game. And after that, Not been able to run the ball since.
Wow. That's scary. That's scary.
A little bit.
My stat comes from the Team USA, the women's basketball in the FIBA World Cup. They beat South Korea 145-69. So they broke the FIBA World Cup record for points in a game. And that's okay. That's impressive. But what blew my mind is that the bench for Team USA outscored South Korea's entire team by 19 points.
Holy cow.
Wow.
That's insane.
Wow. Go Team USA.
USA. USA.
We'll have to punt and do our player of the week coming up next hour. We'll get to that. Stick around. We've got Utah State Club Hockey in the house, talking about their season, how you can watch their games and follow along, and what they look like this year. That's coming up next here on the Full Court Press, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. When Dak Prescott went down with that hand injury in Week 1, the Cowboys' playoff hopes took a major hit. But after last night's win against the Giants, the team has now won 2 in a row under backup QB Cooper Rush. The quarterback has played well in the Cowboys system and has taken excellent care of the football to start the season. It's easy to overreact with standalone games, but what Rush has done in Dallas is impressive. The team in desperate need of wins to survive Prescott's injury, and Rush has delivered back-to-back victories versus a Super Bowl contender and a division rival. Is Rush the answer under center for Dallas? Probably not. But the team has to be happy with what they've seen so far. There are still plenty of games left before the playoffs begin, but if the team can continue to play stellar defense, run the football, and limit their turnovers, Dak Prescott's hand injury may not be the end of Dallas this season. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.